My name is Heather King, and I will stress the last name because we go by that here at River City. We all use last names to teach respect.
My name is Kimberly Youngblood. My job title here is a case manager coordinator. What that simply means is that I manage the cases, assign them to the case managers based on the skill level of that case manager, as well as do stand-in work for the clinical supervisor. So it's kind of a huge umbrella of a position.
My name's Eric Willoughby. I'm the clinical supervisor here at River City Correctional Center.
My name is Ellen Giesel, and I'm an education specialist.
My name is Jody Slayo, and I'm the program director.
As case manager coordinator, I oversee the day-to-day pod functions, making sure groups start on time, making sure the pod is running smoothly, making sure everybody is where they need to be, and that we follow a very regimented schedule. As the case manager coordinator, I also supervise 2 of our case managers and making sure that their documentation and their files are up to date, their groups run smoothly. I sit in on groups every once in a while to make sure that all of the lessons and the skills are being taught as they should be in each of our groups and each of our classes. And I assist the clinical supervisor on the pod with any paperwork, any documentation, going to meetings, taking care of all the behind scenes that go on as far as paperwork, court documentation, file charting, anything of that nature.
I spend a lot of time interacting with the residents just on the day room floors, helping redirect and hopefully restructure some of their thinking. The other piece of it is that I manage the case loads, giving each case manager a specific resident, again based on their skill level, based on their passion, and then they manage the case from there. I also keep track of residents' graduation dates based on what the clinical supervisor and I meet about. So there's some work I do with the residents, as well as work that I do just helping manage the pod.
Part of my job is to make sure day-to-day schedule goes through, make sure the residents have a structured day going, and that they're fulfilling those schedules, attending the groups. I'll keep a census sheet so we can communicate with other departments, probation, administration. I want to match offenders, based on, their risk levels of them committing crimes again, and making sure they're getting the accurate classes, so everybody's getting the correct classes. I coach my staff in making sure that they're fulfilling the treatment obligations that they have to provide the proper services to our residents, and I also attend and run staff meetings to ensure that we have proper training.
I work with students that come into the facility that do not have a GED. They are lacking the skills, or maybe were bored in school and they didn't have time to get a GED, left school for various reasons, and now they come into a facility with not having a GED. So it's my job to help them bring their skills up to taking the GED or just improving their skills.
As the program director, my job is to make sure that we're implementing effective treatment in our facility. So my job is to choose a modality of treatment, the type of treatment that we do, which is cognitive behavioral treatment, and then implement programming tied to that type of treatment, and then manage the staff to make sure that they're delivering services effectively.
We at River City are a cognitive behavioral therapy treatment modality. So we, as far as group interventions, we target the Thinking for a Change curriculum. We have the substance abuse curriculum. We have the parenting curriculum. We have practicing responsible behavior, recognizing responsible behavior, as well as education and individuals working towards their GED. As far as individual counseling, each case manager is required to meet with the residents bi-weekly for a half hour. We targeted individual sessions, their treatment plan, goal setting. We work on things like cost-benefit analysis and thinking reports that are geared towards changing their antisocial behaviors and attitudes. And in essence, we are targeting the thoughts and behaviors that lead to their behavior.
While I do meet with the residents individually, I do group work, and I think probably the biggest chunk of my time is the group work. Individual sessions last about 30 minutes, and we meet every other week. So the biggest chunk of my time is spent with the residents as a group.
A couple different ones. I do individual counseling, one-on-one sessions with residents where we'll talk treatment plan, go over that. I also do group counseling in the form of Thinking for a Change or a substance abuse group. I also do a group called Aftercare. When a resident actually finishes our program, they will come to this group for 3 to 6 months, and I actually get to talk to them outside of the facility.
As a resident arrives, they're right away asked if they have a GED or not. If they don't have a GED, what we do is test them. We give them 2 standardized tests. One's called the TABE test. The first one's called the locator test. It is a screening test to find out their skills. After those tests, we sit down individually, work with the resident in making a plan. We make an education plan on how this student is going to attain his GED, if that's possible. Sometimes it's not possible, and we just work on improving their skills, and students really are motivated to try and get better. And that's basically what I do.
Personally, I do a lot of the management and the supervision of staff, of course, but what's important to me is also to deliver services. So I facilitate various groups. I rotate through our cognitive behavioral group, so I will facilitate Thinking for a Change, which is a general cognitive behavioral group targeting criminogenic needs. I will sometimes facilitate our substance abuse treatment group, and I will facilitate our treatment designed specifically for women offenders.
Typical day, that's funny. I think working in any kind of correctional setting, you never know what you're going to walk into. So we have a plan every day, and just depending on what happens during the evening and in the course of the very early morning, kind of depends on what our day is going to run like. Our day will start off as a meeting with staff to see if there's any issues we need to go over or iron out. But typically throughout the day we run groups. The residents get up 5 or 5:30 and don't go to bed till 9:30 or 10, and we are running groups pretty much that entire time. So between individual counseling sessions, individual case planning, and running groups, that's pretty much our day. We are also monitoring the day-to-day action on the pod. We're constantly walking around and making sure that the residents are involved in pro-social activities as much as they can be, by tutoring, by practicing the role play, skill steps and lessons that they're learning in their groups, assisting the RS in any, just the overseeing the unit, the pod.
Well, I would like to say we have typical days, but we really don't. I mean, there are typical paperwork needs that are met, but a typical day would include coming in and dealing with any issues that have occurred over the evening prior to us coming in, if there are any. If there aren't, then it would be involving getting ready for group. What does that mean? Making sure we have our copies ready, making sure that we're going to be there on time, preparing from the previous group, making sure all that information is together. So that's pretty much a typical day. If we have people graduating, there are also days where we're doing discharge summaries to go out to the judges, and if we're not doing that, then we're doing some work with the residents, preparing them to leave, housing needs, any kind of job and family services connections they may need. So we're doing a lot of outside work, making sure the residents have outside resources available to them upon their discharge. So
when I first clock in, I will read our pass on, which our security will kind of keep a running log of what the residents were up to the night before. And if there's any problems, I will talk to the staff members, or I'll talk to the resident and follow up with them of maybe what sanction they received. And then after I get that done, I'll make sure that I check in with my staff, make sure everybody's on the same page of what's going to happen that day, pass on any information that they might not know. And depending on what day it is, I'll facilitate a group, thinking for a change or substance abuse. And then, once again, depending on the day, I'll attend a staff meeting or meet with a probation officer to discuss a client. And I'll run staff meetings depending on the days.
It's interesting. Each day is different for me. Working with these students, you never know the mood that they're in. You never know what's happened before you arrived. But for me, when I get there, I have 2 classes a day, with the exception of Monday and Friday. So they're hour-long classes, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And students come in, they know exactly what they're doing because we've all spoken individually. They work in a classroom setting. It's all individualized though. So some might be working on computer skills, working on the computer to reinforce skills that they're trying to improve. Others may be working with a tutor. So that goes on in the classroom. After class, I come back and grade tests, read essays, do a lot of paperwork, and then get ready for the afternoon class. After the afternoon class, again, I'm grading. There's a lot of paperwork. We also have a program called the ABLE program we were affiliated with, and it's a government program and gives us money for students' progress. So if a student doesn't have a GED, they're entered into that program. So I'm doing a lot of paperwork.
Really, there's no typical day for me. Generally, I do a little bit of everything, a little problem solving. When you're in an administrative role, there's lots of meetings. So I'm kind of involved on the higher level issues that come up in the facility rather than the day-to-day facilitation and group process.
My favorite part of the job is running the groups. I like delivering and modeling the skills and the lessons in each group, and watching residents. We deal with adult men, adult men. I like watching them learn the skill steps and practice it. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're serious, but they're practicing pro-social ways of handling really risky situations and risky situations for them. So can be fun. And it's also a learning experience, so you're kind of learning how to be pro-social and have some kind of fun leisure activities along with learning different skills. So that probably is the best part of the day.
Working with the residents. That's the best part. And seeing someone get it. When you see them kind of work through the whole thinking process, and you can see them kind of, all of their facial expressions saying, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And then all of a sudden something clicks. That is like the awesome thing. And then they're able to teach back, meaning give back to the other residents by saying, well, you know what, this is how I got it. This is how I understood it. So that's pretty cool.
Best part of my job is being able to watch a resident when he first comes in progress through the program. We see them with more of a institutionalized prison mentality, and then being able to watch them go through that progress of change, and they're all hot moments. I think that's one of the best parts of the job.
Tremendous motivation and excitement is totally what keeps me going about this job. And the best part about it is you never know how students are going to do when they qualify for the GED and take the test. The day that I have to tell somebody they passed their GED is probably the rewarding aspect of why I'm here every day. It's joyous. And what follows is a graduation within about a week or 2 of getting their GED. That is in tandem with presenting them their GED and having them walk down to pomp and circumstance and just be totally overwhelmed with joy.
The best part of my job is watching a resident from when they come in and where their attitudes, beliefs, and skills are, and hearing they're usually pretty honest, and then seeing where they are 4, 5, 6 months later when they're ready to leave, and watching them and seeing them demonstrate the change. You can see the changes in their attitudes and the changes in their behaviors by how they're interacting. So seeing that start to finish is very beneficial.
When you know a resident doesn't want to change, unfortunately we have a population that sometimes they come here for just the alternative to prison. They don't want to go to prison. So eventually they buy in. It's very hard not to, because it's such a great program, and they end up buying into it. When they don't buy into it and you realize that there are some that you just can't change, that you can't give enough skills and you can't give enough work for them to want to make that change.
The worst part is seeing someone fail. When you want them to get it, at least for me, when you really want them to get it, and there's nothing you can do. You've given all the pieces of information you can give, and it just doesn't click for them. That's probably, for me, the worst part of this job.
The worst parts of the job would be when you've got a few residents who are just making it miserable for other people, and you have to confront them on that one when they're not buying into the program and they're basically fighting against everything you say. And it makes the job tough because it can be mentally just frustrating.
For me, I'm not a paperwork person, so I kind of put paperwork off to the side sometimes, and that's totally my biggest confront of getting everything done each day.
I think the worst part of my job is the unpredictability of it, because my day isn't routine. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's difficult to be able to get the things done that I'd like to do rather than the things that need to be done.
A lot of the residents have been living their lifestyle for so long, it's very hard for them to see what the positive part of living a pro-social life is. So trying to get them to buy into what is so positive about freedom and about living a pro-social life, and continue, which goes through continuing to practicing through all of the lessons and all of the skills that we learn. One of the reasons we get up at 5:30 and go to bed is to go to bed at 9:30, and they have their daily schedule is to practice routine and to practice schedule, and to get them to want that. Sometimes staff and a lot of the individuals here want that for them more than they want it for themselves.
Getting them to really buy into the whole concept of pro-social skills, pro-social behaviors, because they're so used to quick fixes. These impulsive decisions that they've made has become so part of who they are. It's really a challenge for them to see another way and really understand that there's a benefit to it. So that's probably the biggest challenge.
Hardest challenge is keeping them motivated. When a resident will come into the program, most of them have the attitude and belief of they don't want to work with a stranger, or we're out to get them, and they don't trust people in authority. So it's keeping them motivated, and once you get them motivated, keeping their treatment specific versus a general population. We want to look at making it individual to that resident, that client. So it's his treatment, not a cookie cutter where everybody's getting the same treatment.
Motivation. Where they've come from, many of them have been told they're stupid, they're never going to learn. Many of our students have learning issues, and it's really interesting for me to work with students that I have to motivate, and they seem to really enjoy being told that they did something well, being told that they are getting so much better, and I think that is what I really know, that that's a difficult thing to do, to try and motivate people, but it's really rewarding once they get to a level of success.
especially starting out, I think the most difficult thing is meeting an offender where they are. Sometimes, especially when I started in the field, I wanted it more than they did. I wanted change more than they did. And what was difficult was being able to step back and know they weren't as motivated as I was for them. So my job was to start there, to start with building their motivation and helping them realize there's some benefits in changing.
The success stories, we have aftercare. Part of our curriculum is aftercare, and I think part of the rewards is when they call after they're gone, or you see them coming back for aftercare and they're working and they're doing well. Some of the rewards that you see day to day is when the individuals come here from the Justice Center or wherever when they're admitted, they're very resistant to change. They're very resistant to what we have to offer, and they're kind of hesitant because they don't know what it's like. And they're here for close to 6 months. So watching them every day kind of buy into it. The person that they are when they walk in the door, 98% of the time is probably a completely different person than they are when they leave. And that change is so rewarding to watch, to actually watch them study, to watch them get involved in groups, to watch them do their homework, and then to get involved in just the different activities that we do.
I hate to say sound all cliche, but the biggest reward is seeing someone get it. To leave here and sometimes call back years later. Like I've had people call back, I've been here 12 years, so maybe from my first year here, 12 years. Hey, Ms. Youngblood, just calling to let you know that I'm still doing good and I'm in school and I've done this. That is awesome. Yeah.
The greatest reward is, once again, watching them progress through the program. We see a lot of clients who come in with nothing, and through 4 to 6 months we can see them obtain their GED, change their criminal thinking. We can help residents get jobs, and just watching them progress. And I get to see that all the way through aftercare up to the time that we say you no longer have to stay here. So we see them essentially just grow into a completely different person.
There are many. We've had students come through this program, and out of getting their GED, they've gone on to college. And to hear that they've actually gone to college and they're taking courses, it is such a rewarding experience. I've had students leave here, and my finest goal student that was in here came through twice, didn't pass the GED until the third time, passed it in math, went out, and always wanted to work here as an employee, and he absolutely came back here, met that goal. He was a resident supervisor, and he worked here in one of the pods, managing the control and the safety in the pod. And unfortunately, he died of cancer about 2 years ago. But to see him come from nothing, work through all of his addictions, take his GED, pass it, and then come back here and be an employee was my greatest thrill.
The greatest reward for me now, since I'm not doing that direct service, is to know that we're preventing future victims, really. I mean, if someone comes through my program and they take in and they're motivated and they develop the skills and change their attitudes, they go back out and they lead productive, healthy lives, and no one else is harmed as a result of that. So though we can't capture that in numbers, I think that's definitely the most rewarding aspect.
School. I started off thinking that I wanted to be a psychologist and have my own practice or whatever, and I quickly realized that I think I just the criminal mind has always kind of intrigued me. Why we do what we do, why, and I say we because I use that in groups a lot, but why offenders do what they do, trying to figure out what the thought process is, what's going on. I have an undergraduate degree from Northern Kentucky University in mental health, and I'm currently in the master's program at University of Cincinnati. I'll be done in August.
It happened, just kind of evolved. I started out doing an internship at a driver intervention program, and then it just kind of evolved from there. I originally planned my major psychology with addiction, so it just evolved. And then I became a licensed chemical dependency counselor, and so here I am today working in the field. My undergrad is in psychology. My graduate degree is in counseling studies, and I also have a license in chemical dependency counseling. The workshops that I've attended in the past gave me the practical knowledge, a peer knowledge, but my true learning opportunities were just being here in the job. I learned as I made mistakes. I learned from others who mentored me very well and encouraged me and directed my steps as I kind of moved to where I am today.
I went to school and studying criminal justice, and I just started applying for jobs, and this job came available originally as a case manager, and just it was something that always interested me, looking at the psychology of what a criminal offender is and working through that change process. So that's how I came into the job. My prior education was, I got my Associates of Arts, and then I got my Bachelor's of Science with minoring in Psychology, Sociology, and then I got my Master's in Science, which focused on criminal justice and law enforcement and crime prevention.
My background is in elementary education. So I have a degree in elementary ed, and who would have thought after 25 years in various fields, special education, PTA, mother, all kinds of interesting experiences, I would come to a facility like this. It all happened almost overnight by a friend telling me there were positions available. I applied. I thought, oh, I just couldn't possibly work with men. But this has been a rewarding experience. It's so much different than children. Men are very focused and they want to improve. And any kind of success, they're motivated.
I have a master's degree in psychology, and so I started off in the field working the psychology, the psychological aspect of the field, doing crisis intervention and psychological evaluations, and I realized that was kind of limiting what I was able to do, so I slowly progressed to different areas. I looked at different areas in the field to find what I liked. I did a little case management. I did a lot of group work to determine what area I wanted to be in. I've worked with juveniles and worked with adults, and I think all that experience, all the grunt work at the beginning, to help me develop my skills so that now I'm able to be in this position.
Probably to love the work, to know what you're getting into, to love what you're doing. I think everybody that starts here, I've been here 12 and a half years. I started when I was 23, and I think the idea was that I was going to be able to fix everybody and change everybody. So I think knowing that the most important part of your job is being able to offer what your knowledge is and what your skills are to help individuals want to change, and realizing that we're not miracle workers, we're just here to deliver the skills necessary for them to get it and for them to take with them and make it.
First and foremost, get to know yourself and your own thoughts, because what you think will influence how you feel and then influence how you react or respond. So, and that's basically what we teach the residents. But our own stuff can get in the way sometimes of hearing really what's going on. So I always encourage, check yourself first. And then when you're able to honestly look at yourself, then you can help a resident honestly look at his or herself. And it becomes less adversarial. So that's probably the biggest thing, just take care of yourself. The other part is allow yourself the opportunity to make mistakes. Understand that that's going to happen. That there are going to be times that you'll miss the mark, and it's okay to acknowledge that. Sometimes we get a little uncomfortable with making mistakes, and then it shows all in our body language and everybody else can see it, and it just kind of throws it off. Just relax and realize that everything you're doing is just helping you to become a better counselor.
The best advice I could give is be patient. Be patient with the clientele you're working with, because a lot of them need to be rehabilitated. They need to be taught different skills that what's natural to us isn't natural to them, and invest in the idea that treatment can work. It's not going to work for everybody, but if we've got the idea, we can help motivate them, we can help them buy in, we can help the resident assist in changing their life. If you're impatient and you lose your cool with them, they're going to see that, and they're going to be disengaged. They're not going to want any part of it. That's part of the best advice I could give.
This, one of the questions they asked me when I applied for this job is, do you actually believe people can be rehabilitated? And I really answered that wholeheartedly, yes, because that's my own personal feeling, and I think students coming into this field, it's a rewarding field. And if you are a person that cares about others, you want to help others, you want to see people succeed, this is a wonderful field to be in.
I would say do as many practicums and as many internships and get exposure to as much as you can, because there were some things about the field or areas of the field that I really liked, and then I found out there are some areas that I didn't like or I wasn't good with. I wasn't able to connect with that sort of population. I would also say learn about treatment. Corrections isn't just locking people up anymore. Corrections is about rehabilitation, and so really gaining as much experience and training as you can in the area of treatment.